What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost, your hub for all things movie related. Another weekend has come and gone, and it is once again time to talk those juicy box office numbers. It was another stellar weekend here for Super Mario Brothers. The holdovers for this movie have been absolutely freaking amazing week over week. April has been all Super Mario Brothers. It is absolutely just destroying records week over week over week. And we have another freaking one that it finally hit this weekend. Not a record, but still a big, huge milestone in this movie's journey. And we're going to discuss all of that here today. As always, quickly before we begin, if you enjoy any of these videos, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop some comments down below. It's how we help this channel grow. But with all that out of the way, let's dive into all of the good stuff that we have to talk about this weekend as we turn all eyes onto Super Mario Brothers for this last weekend of April before we hit the summer movie season with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. As always, we start with our week over week box office chart to see how we're doing week over week here in the 2023 box office. We take a look now at the chart. In week 17, we finally, again, it was hard to sustain this love that we were having here, over 100 million each weekend, finally in the last weekend of April. Even with a plethora of new titles dropping, we were unable to sustain those $100 million openings. We dropped underneath. We were $88 million in week 17 over the top 10. It's a drop of 25.3% over last week. It's a shame that we couldn't finish out April with another $100 million opening. It was an absolutely stellar month for this movie, buoyanced mostly by Super Mario Brothers. It's crazy that we managed to be over 100 million week over week over week, and that was pretty much in large part to Super Mario Brothers every week having a big, huge chunk of that box office receipts. So it sucks that we were able to drop underneath it. That's a bummer for that last week. I was hoping we were just going to have a huge fucking run from April now until God knows when, at the end of the summer. But it is what it is. It's going to drop only for this week because obviously this weekend coming up with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Super Mario Brothers, I think it is safe to say that we are going to have an absolutely stellar weekend this upcoming weekend at the box office. But now we turn our attention to the top 10 where we take a look and see just where everything else dropped here in the top 10. We go now to the charts. Super Mario Brothers is once again number one, 4 weekends in a row at number one. It dropped only 33.3%. Absolutely fucking astronomical, these holdover titles. It took in $40 million. That's in its fourth week, still has an opening that some movies would kill for in their first week. Some other movies on this chart that we'll talk about would have killed for an opening like this. But it took in $40 million to bring its total domestic hold to $490 million off of a $100 million budget. Just absolutely printing money. Evil Dead Rise in its second week, while dropping 50.2%, still holds up strong in the second spot and brings in $12 million to bring its total domestic hold to $44 million off of a $19 million budget. So this movie, well on its way, just absolutely churning profits as well. Horror has always been an absolutely fantastic moneymaker, especially in the last year or so. Ever since post-COVID, horror is just absolutely destroying at the box office, and Evil Dead Rise will add to the pantheon of other horror titles in the past year and a half that have just put up fantastic box office numbers. In third place, debuting the first new movie of the weekend of debut. We talked before how movies would kill for Mario's fourth week totals. Margaret is a movie that could have dealt with that. In third place, we've got Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Took in only $6.8 million with a $30 million budget. So this movie could have used that $40 million opening that Super Mario Brothers put up in its fourth weekend. This movie looks like it's going to struggle to make some money back, but hey, it is what it is. The box office does not give a fuck about what you're expecting of movies coming out. They were talking about this movie doing some good business, but I guess for whatever reason, it's being lost in the shuffle. I think in the weeks to come, it might do a little better. Its holdover might be fine, especially as we get into those Mother Day weekend crowds. This movie might end up having some good legs. Don't know if it'll make back its budget, but I think it'll at least have some solid legs where it might have some good holdover. In fourth place, who the fuck would have seen this? The re-release, the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi is in fourth place. It has some of my dollars. That's what I went and saw this weekend. It put up $5 million. That is absolutely huge for a movie that just turned 40 years old. Absolutely stellar to be able to go and see that movie on the big screen. And I'm sure plenty of other people also had that same sentiment because it popped itself all the way up to number 4. Rounding at the top 5, we've got John Wick Chapter 4 in sixth week, dropping only 14.4%. That is a fantastic fucking holdover right there. It took in $4.8 million to bring its total domestic hold to $176 million off of a $100 million budget. On the back five, back in 6th place after it was in 6th place, jumped itself back up into 5th place, and is now back down into 6th place. We got Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves in its 5th week, dropping 25.5%. That's not a bad holdover either. It took in $4 million to take its domestic haul to $88 million off of a $150 million budget. So domestically, still not putting itself up to where it needs to be, but at least worldwide, it seems to at least passed over its initial budget. Still don't know if that's good enough to put itself in the green, but hey, it's at least something. In 7th place, we've got Air in its 4th week, dropping 27%. All these movies having some very solid holdovers. It took in $3.9 million to bring its total domestic haul to $47 million of a $90 million budget. In 8th place, we have part 2 of the Ponyin Selvan. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Apologies to anybody. But it came in and it took in $3.8 million. We have no idea what the budget was or anything like that. But these movies always come in and do absolutely solid numbers for themselves here whenever they show up. In 9th place, The Covenant in its 2nd week, dropping down to 9th place. Not a good sign for that movie. It drops 43.3%, takes in $3.6 million to bring its total domestic haul to $12 million of a $55 million budget. This movie is going to struggle to get to that spot, especially if it continues like this. We could see it out of the top 10 as early as next week already. And then rounding out the top 10 is another new movie, Sisu. Took in $3.2 million of a $6 million budget, so if this has a little bit solid of a holdover over the next couple of weeks, it's at least going to make its initial budget back. Now, as always, we'd like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our heroes that did their time in the top 10, but they have bowed out for greener passages. We have 4 movies this week that have bowed out of the top 10. We take a look now at the chart. After 2 weeks on the chart, The Pope's Exorcist bows out. Again, after 2 weeks on the chart, Renfield bows out. That movie is going to go down as a big box office bomb. After 1 week on the chart, Beau is Afraid bows out. Good, fuck you, get out of here. And then after 2 weeks on the chart, Suzume also bows out. You guys had your say, you did your time, you made your money, but now it's time for you to bow out for greener passages. We will see you in the realm of physical media, and as always, we salute you. Now we're going to take a look and we're going to look and see at some of these awesome, amazing numbers that Super Mario Bros. Put up this weekend. Over the weekend, Super Mario Bros. Finally made enough money to put it over the hump, and it has become the first movie of 2023 to gross $1 billion at the box office, and only the 5th movie, I think, to become about a $1 billion hit since the pandemic. We had Spider-Man No Way Home, Top Gun Maverick, Jurassic World Dominion, Avatar The Way of Water, and now the Super Mario Bros. Movie. 5 wildly different, but absolutely deserving movies, except Jurassic World Dominion, to have hit this claim. And now the question is, how much more does Super Mario Brothers have in the tank? How high is it going to get before we bow out on its box office totals? We're going to look now at a few charts to see how it's doing well. This, with hitting over $1 billion, it made enough for it to knock itself into the top 50 highest grossing movies of all time. So right now it's sitting towards the bottom of the barrel. We're going to take a look now and see just where it sits right now. And we're going to question where we think it's going to go from here. So we take a look now at this chart. If you look here, we're looking at the bottom 50 of the worldwide grosses. It was just enough to knock itself into the top 50. You see now that Mario Brothers is sitting right in the middle, just dropped into the top 50. It's sitting pretty at number 48 with $1.022 billion. Good enough to put itself ahead of The Hobbit at 49 with 1.017, and then Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone at 50 with 1.009. It is just behind Zootopia with 1.023. I'm sure by the time we're filming this video that it's already blown past that one. And then in its sights is at number 46, Alice in Wonderland, 1.025. Absolutely insane that that movie did that amount of money. The question now is, how much does Super Mario Bros. Have in it? How high into the billion is it going to get? I don't think it's going to reach the heights of some of the other ones that have hit it. Like, it's no shot at even getting close to Avatar in the 2 billion range. I don't know if it's going to have anything to hit near Spider-Man at 1.7, but I think possibly with how well its holdover is, the question will be, how does it do into May when it actually has competition now? Because April, it's just been all Super Mario Brothers. There hasn't been one movie that can put up a fight against it. But now we're starting to get into our May movie season. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy coming out this weekend. In 2 weeks after that, you got Fast X. And then 2 weeks after that, or another week after that, then you got The Little Mermaid. So it's about to have some fierce competition at the box office now. So the question is how much does it still have it in it to really ramp itself up, and how high? I think it's probably going to end somewhere in the $1.4, $1.5 billion range, which is absolutely fantastic. I think that is an absolutely stellar performance right there, especially for this movie. No video game-based movie has ever done this type of business before. So this is an absolute huge win for this movie. And all eyes are going to be on it to continue to see what it does week over week now as we start to get into the summer movie season and it starts to have some fierce competition. But this is an absolutely stellar win for this movie that is already now on to the top 50 highest grossing movies of all time. But now we move on to take a look at what we always look at, and that is our worldwide and domestic grosses for the year. We start, as always, with our top 10 worldwide for 2023. As is par the course, Super Mario Brothers hanging in there, right there at number one. It broke the 1 billion mark to be the number one movie. It's been the number one movie, but it is just absolutely just bridging. Nobody's going to come close to this movie, I think. I think this movie is going to end up being the number one movie of the year, especially worldwide. I don't know if anything's going to touch it domestically, but at least worldwide, I'm pretty sure Super Mario Bros. Is going to take number one for this whole year. But sitting right now, number one with 1.022 billion. Right behind it, we got Full River Red with 673 million. The Wandering Earth 2 with 604 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, about to bow out and just be completely done. Couldn't even cross 500 million. Sits at 474. John Wick Chapter 4 rounds out the top 5 with 402 million. It would be interesting to see if by the end of its run, it manages to overtake Ant-Man and the Wasp. In sixth place, we've got Creed 3 with 272, Boonie Bears with 221, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves with 194, Megan with 176.6, and Scream 6 in 10th spot with 168. Over on the domestic front, the Super Mario Brothers movie is still number one with 490 million, about to cross that 500 million domestic threshold. That is an absolute huge win for this movie. In second place, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania with 212 million, John Wick Chapter 4 with 176 million, Creed 3 with 155 million, Scream 6 with 108 million, Megan with 95 million, Dungeons & Dragons with 88 million, Cocaine Bear with 64 million, Shazam Fury of the Gods with 57 million, and Jesus Revolution rounding out the top 10 with $52 million. Now we move over to continue on with our glory of movies holding number one consecutively. We take a look at that beautiful chart as always. And as you see, Super Mario Bros. Adding another weekend to its title. It is now going to be right behind Avatar with how many weekends it's held number one. Super Mario Bros. Has now held number one for the entire month of April. April 7th, April 14th, April 21st, and now April 28th. I think this is its last week here at number one because Guardians of the Galaxy is now coming out. But what an absolute stellar run put up by the Super Mario Brothers movie. And one last chart that we'd love to take a look at, that is our 2023 chart riders. These are our top 10 chart riders. This is where we look and see just which movies have had the best legs here at the box office, so we can tally it up at the end of the year and see which movies had the best overall legs, what were the most popular movies to hang around in the top 10 for the entire year. As always, we go to the chart. And if you look now, we didn't have much of a difference. Everything's still here that was here last week. The only difference now is that John Wick Chapter 4 is moving up the ranks. If you see at the bottom, we've got Missing, Megan, Jesus Revolution, Creed 3, and Scream 6 all locked in at 6 weeks apiece. John Wick Chapter 4 is now the latest movie to join the 6-week club. It is at the top of those right now because this one still has a chance of being in the top 10 next week and adding a 7th week to its belt. So right now it is sitting way above the pack. Right now, we've got 6 movies that are in 6 weeks apiece right now. So 6 weeks seems to be the number that everybody loves to hang around the top 10 for and then bow the fuck out. We're going to see if John Wick is able to buck that trend and continue the party. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania locked in at 7 weeks. And then in our top 3, still holding strong. Nothing has been able to come close to these movies. We got A Man Called Otto locked in at 8 weeks. Puss in Boots from 2022 locked in at 11 weeks. And Avatar The Way of Water from 2022 locked in at 12 weeks. Will anything be able to put up anywhere near close to those top 2 movies? And that'll do it for all of us here at the charts this week. A absolute stellar weekend to kick off April. It was a crazy busy weekend, especially up on the East Coast for anyone that was dealing with that crazy rainstorm we had this past weekend. It was absolutely filthy busy at my theater this weekend. Everything just absolutely pumping numbers. Mario just cleaning house, just continuing to make money hand over fist. And it is going to be fucking exciting this weekend to watch that movie and Guardians of the Galaxy duke it out. They're claiming a $100 million opening for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so it's going to be exciting to watch and see if this movie is going to debut domestically in the blockbuster status chart. I mean, I could see it depending on how well this movie does over the weekend, what its critic score is, what the audience score is. I think this movie is set to do some very fantastic numbers, and it is something that Marvel is sorely going to need after its last few performances, especially the previous one with Ant-Man and the Wasp. They need something to hit absolutely big right now to prove that they are not just treading water and they are on the decline, but they are still the kings of the box office. But that is all for next week's charts. That is the finish of this bad boy this weekend. Let me know down below what you went and saw this past weekend. It was an absolutely I went on a 4-day binge, baby. 4 days in a row going to the theater. I saw Evil Dead Rise. The next day I saw Return of the Jedi. The day after that I saw Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. And the day after that I saw Sisu. So it was an absolutely big weekend here for me, movie going. I hope it was for you as well. Let me know down below what you went and saw. But until the next video, you have been you. I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.